Welcome to the new podcast, A Mick, a Mook, and a Mike, hosted by four-time Emmy-nominated producer Frank Pace, with retired New York City firefighter and Vietnam vet Billy O'Connor.
Today's guest, two-time Super Bowl champion and actor, Dwight Hicks.
My brother, Billy. Billy, huh?
Frankie, my brother, how the hell are you?
How the hell are you?
I'm great, brother.
What are you reading?
I'm reading Lamar's Gamble by Billy O'Connor and Frank Pace.
Any good?
Yeah, man, it's really good. It's I'm reading this section here where H.L. Hunt, who was the richest man in the world, is talking to his son, Lamar Hunt, who wants to start, a new league.
Uh-huh.
And he says to his son, he goes, I know you want to do this on your own. He says, but I took the liberty of having my people run background checks on these NFL boys. They have shaky past, especially Rosenblum. All powerful men have skeletons in their closet, Lamar said. Maybe, but Rosenblum has enough skeletons to open a medical college. In the 50s, Carol Rosenblum and some beauty named Lou Chesler loaned their buddy Mike McClaney the money to purchase a large Cuban hotel casino from, of all people, Meyer Lansky. This fellow McClaney is a talented golf and tennis player who refused to turn pro because Rosenblum is his personal pigeon. He sometimes fleeced that chump out of $250,000 on a single round of golf.
Wow.
But we're supposed to believe that a single round of golf for $250,000, but Rosenblum was an immaculate guy who didn't gamble other than that.
Well, I look forward to reading.
It's a damn good read, brother. It's got a little bit of everything.
Yep. Before we go too far, our guest today is two-time Super Bowl champion Dwight Hicks, and who's a fine actor as well. What did Dwight say about the book?
Dwight Hicks endorsed our book.
Why don't you show it to me?
I will indeed.
Well,
there's a picture of Dwight. There's his quote.
And what does his quote say?
Riveting.
Wow.
You didn't know you were a bit of a rivet. I always knew you were a bit of great storytelling. Lamar's Gamble gave me a better perception of the NFL. I absolutely love this book. Well, thank you, Mr. Hicks.
And we'll talk to Dwight in about 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I was a big fan of the 49ers back in the day.
So,
oh, yeah. Tell me something before we get to Dwight Hicks. What's the deal with this table?
Wow.
I feel like I'm making a beach party bingo movie or something. Where's the nut food and jello when I need it?
The glass cracked.
Uh-huh.
The glass cracked on Wednesday, and I was in deep doo-doo. I called Derek and I said, Derek, you got a piece of plywood or wood, something that we could use, because I can't get the tabletop replaced until next week when we have Upton Bell on. So he said, yeah. And of course, he bought a white piece, which is better than nothing. But I felt that the white piece was had to be covered with something. So we had a blanket.
Well, it would really bother me if I was still doing coke, because at least you can do the coke off the glass. Kind of get lost in this. So it doesn't bother me that much. And that's an interesting thing. The glass crack, that's when you talk about crack and the glass dick. I remember people used to call that when they're smoking crack. Anyway, we'll get by. We'll figure it out.
Speaking of smoking crack, what'd you do on your vacation?
Frank, I'm clean now. I'm off the shit. I got my arm caught in the sewing machine. It's not what you think. I'm not doing what you think. I was down at Keys with Jenny, and I love the Keys, man. I've always loved the Keys. But we were down at Key West, did some sailing, and just really, I like Florida. I think if you're from New York, Florida, the BVI, the British Virgin Islands, the Caribbean, that's your playground. Of course, if you're here, it's easier to go to Hawaii.
Right. Right.
People from California are not going to the Caribbean or to Florida.
So I take it, since you didn't do much sharing while you were in in Florida, you had no internet.
I was living on a sailboat.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
I'm such a cheap bastard.
Did you
Yeah, I stayed on a sailboat because They wanted like $300 a night for
That's
rooms
great.
in the Key West. So I was staying on an Airbnb, which was on a sailboat, for like $125 a night. But they had no, but I wanted. It was
That's
like,
fantastic.
yeah. Well, my wife loves camping and that kind of stuff, so she lived in a teepee for a while. But I got to tell you, the airlines, the freaking airlines. I mean, I don't understand it, man. And again, I'm not xenophobic, but as soon as I say that, obviously the next thing I'm going to say is it's going to be xenophobic.
Right.
It's like I'm not prejudiced. However, but what is it with the airlines? I mean, every time they put somebody on the PA, is it a prerequisite that they got to be from China, Eastern Europe,
Don't go
or from
there.
someplace that you can't understand? I mean,
Don't go there.
I don't know what the hell he was saying. Why should I press 1 on a phone to hear English and then get somebody I can't understand? They switch me somebody I have no idea what they're saying. I have to say it 5 times. I'm saying, and I'm bad with my hearing anyway. The sirens and the rock bands that I had in my joint and everything. I'm half deaf. But so other than that, the airlines were a disaster.
Yeah, but the airlines didn't have anything to do with the people that were coming on the loudspeakers and not speaking
Well,
English.
they hire them.
But they have.
Why can't they put them someplace else? Why do they put them like with the thick accent so you can't understand what they're saying?
Because the accents have nothing to do with it. They're Americans just like you and me. and
That's
Derek.
true. I mean, I have no problem with that. But make them mechanics. why put them where they're going to be inaudible? But I got to tell you, man, United. Yeah, man. On the way out, 2 hours. I'm sitting on the top in Burbank because there was thunderstorms in Denver. Fair play to them. I don't know why I'm going from Burbank to Denver to get to Florida anyway. But however, fair play to them. It's not their fault. Thunderstorms all day. So we're sitting there for 2 hours. They say, we'll let you know when you can take off. Then the girl comes over the loudspeaker and she goes, anybody who has a connecting flight, which I did because I was going to Florida, she says, you can get off and check with our service department and see if your flight's going to be available. She goes, but I'm not sure we're going to be able to let you back on. I said, well, what does that mean? And then she says, and this is very important. And then she just stopped. I said, I felt like I was in an Abbott and Costello sketch. It was unbelievable. But when I got to Denver, I swear to God, it looked like Wuhan, man. Naturally, my flight was missing. I had to take a bloody cab 40 miles.
Now, hang on a second. You just did it again. It looked like Wuhan.
It did. There was thousands of people all over the airport.
Yeah, but they weren't all Chinese people.
No.
Well, then why did
congestion.
Why did you say it? Why
Because
did you say
China
it?
is noted for congestion.
Oh, okay. Fine.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, but Wuhan is
The plague capital of the world. Yeah, there was people dropping dead all over the airport. No, but actually, it was 300 people lined up to get Burger King. I mean, it looked like they were giving something away because all of the flights were backed up. And I had to take a cab 40 miles to get a hotel room. It was a disaster. But I had a good time.
Speaking of one thing that wasn't a disaster, I noticed you're clean shaven today.
Yeah, I'm using.
How did you get so clean shaven?
Got this product, Cremo, and it's a moisturizing thing. I got a thick beard, Frank, and
well, we had the president and CEO of Cremo on last week, so you didn't pay for your Cremo, did you,
Frank? I'm tight, Frank. I'm trying to live on a fixed income, Frank. You know what I mean? No, the guy gave us some product, and I tried it, man.
The guy by the name of Matt Biggins.
Matt Biggins gave me, the CEO of Cremo, gave us the product to try. And I got to tell you, man, it's a great product. You just rub a little bit in your hand, maybe 2 dimes worth, like a couple of spots, dabble. But it mixes real well. There's an oil in it or something that grabs your beard. Whereas, you take shaving cream, you stick it on, you're shaving, you got a big chunk of it on, you're flushing it down the toilet. I mean, this was really good. I mean, it's good stuff.
It looked like you got a pretty good shave.
Yeah, it's like smooth as a baby's ass, Frank. Come over here and give me a hug.
Oh, yeah. I got 10 feet separation. And I'm going to have to put a mask on. Tomorrow, tomorrow or Monday night or whatever, 2 nights ago or whatever we're doing.
If you're worried about germs, the first thing you do is burn this table. Do us all a favor.
You wrote a pretty touching blog about your experiences at 9/11, and you were related it to the horror that took place in Miami. Why don't you tell a little bit about your blog?
Yeah, of course, my heart goes out to all the victims, in that collapse. I've been unfortunate enough to see 3 collapses during my 20-year career in the fire department, 2 in South Bronx and 1 in Harlem. And the one in the Harlem wasn't as bad as the 2 in the South Bronx, because the 2 in the South Bronx were pancake collapse, which is very much what happened in Florida.
Well, you were also at 9/11.
The biggest collapse in the history of the world.
Yeah, you might have led with that.
Yeah, I could have led with that, but
You didn't.
No, I didn't.
So fine.
Yeah, but I mean, I could have led with that, I guess, in the article as well. But just my experience and to what I can imagine what the rescue workers are going through, and of course, the relatives of the victims and the people that are not sure whether or not they're really missing. The missing, of course, it's very much like in World War II when they say after 3 years, if you're still missing, chances are. So, but
and you said it was a pancake collapse. What's the difference between the collapses? By the way, if you want to read Billy's blog, you can go to mickamookanamike.com to read the blog. But and Billy describes the 3 kinds of. But why don't you talk about the 3 kinds of collapses for the people?
There's a guy on the New York City Fire Department named Vincent Dunn, deputy chief. He's an expert on collapse. Matter of fact, he flies all over the country, giving lectures on collapse. And there's 3 different kinds of collapse. There's what they call a V-shaped collapse, where the center of a floor collapses. And when that happens, of course, you've got voids on both sides. And then there's a lean-to collapse, which only one side of the floor collapses. And again, you have voids, which means you might be able to rescue some survivors. But when you have a pancake collapse, it just, the whole floor has come down, like similar to what happened at the World Trade Center.
Right.
And the idea that there might be any survivors is very unlikely.
Right.
Well,
so I give my heart goes out to everybody involved, and my heart goes out to the rescue workers and the first responders and everybody that are still digging their way out. And how long will the dig go on? I mean, how long will it be till? I
guess they got to account for everybody, Frank. I mean, look how long it went on at 9/11. I mean, none of the brothers wanted to give up, and they have to have some kind of closure for the families.
Yeah,
Well,
horrible.
It's an awful thing.
Horrible. Anyway,
on a high note, we're leaving on a high note.
Yeah, you can read Billy's blog on www.mickamookanamike.com.
Do you think the fact that happened where it happened in Florida, and of course, the part that collapsed in the building was the part facing the ocean. So erosion, climate change, all of that comes into mind, immediately. I don't know what the deal is with these guys. Look at the vaccinations now. This virus is coming back again. I don't get it. It's a place in Tennessee, they just outlawed all vaccinations. Yeah. All vaccinations. I mean, when we go back to the Middle Ages, what's going on?
And I heard that Jacksonville, Florida, has got the highest 20% people have gotten COVID, has the highest rate in the state of Florida of all people. But let's get off that subject.
Yeah, okay.
We're very fortunate to have Dwight Hicks on today, who's a 2-time Super Bowl champion, and he's now a terrific actor. So if
4-time Pro Bowler too.
4-time Pro Bowler. If Derek could get him on the phone, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay, let's bring Dwight on.
There he is. How you doing, my friend?
Oh, I'm fantastic. How are you?
Good. Meet Billy O'Connor, my partner.
Real honor, Mr. Hicks, Dwight Hicks. A real honor, man.
And Derek Harris, my other partner.
Hello.
Derek, nice to meet you.
We like to call him D.
Even though I can't see you.
Yeah, you can't see me. It's big D to you, Frank.
Yeah. You got double D here. It's like a battery.
Double D. So, Dwight, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing fantastic. I can't complain.
You're living in Atlanta now?
Yes, I am.
How long have you been living there?
We just bought a place about, I think we closed in January.
That's great.
Well, you look great, man. You still look like you got muscles in your hair. I mean,
I'm
staying in great shape.
Seeing is not believing.
So, man, I've always been a big fan. Always been a big fan, man. It was a pleasure watching you play. I mean, I probably followed football maybe a little closer than most because I was bookmaking. And every game, every play was like life. Every play was like life and death. You know.
So I assume you made a lot of money.
Yeah, well, I made a lot of money when I was
betting on us.
Yeah, exactly. If I was betting on you, I had to make money. But yeah, I made money when I was bookmaking, but of course I never could stand prosperity, you know. So I always made sure I gave it back some other way, you know.
Oh, that's funny. That's good stuff.
But yeah, it's really, really a pleasure to have you, and thank you very, very much for reading the book Lamar's Gamble and giving us that review. It was really, really kind of you, man. No kidding.
Hey, I give credit where credit is due. You guys told a wonderful story, and a lot of it's, I'm sure, true. With my experience in the NFL, yeah, job well done.
Well,
job well done.
Thank you very much, man.
You've got an interesting story because you didn't go to the NFL directly out of college. You went to Michigan. You were great.
Right.
You were a great player at Michigan, but you didn't go to the NFL. Why was that, Dwight?
Because I don't know if it's that people didn't recognize the talent, which I don't think that is true. A lot of people don't understand what it takes to get in the organization of the NFL. It's not all about talent all the time. I've seen guys with a lot of talent not even get a shot. Mm-hmm. And it's because one reason or another, maybe they don't feel that person doesn't fit into their organization or their franchise beliefs or attitudes. I don't know. But I just felt that I was good enough to play. I was expected to be a first-round draft choice. What I think happened, and a lot of people have told me that's very true, is that Bo Schembechler put out that I wasn't a coachable player because I wasn't his type of guy. Mm-hmm. Now, Frank, you've known me for quite some time. I've been like this all my life, very personable, respectful of people. But if you can't talk to a young man and get to know him, how do you get to know him? Right. And I don't think Bo really ever talked to me the way he should have. Never called me up into his office and said, "Hey, how you doing? How's school? Are you getting acclimated to this environment?" And then my senior year, when the teams pick captain, your peers, and it has nothing to do with coaches, when they elected me as their defensive captain, Bo said to me out in the hall, just me and him, he said, if it was up to me, Hicks, you wouldn't be captain. Wow. And it was just like a shot in the solar plex.
Yeah.
And once I recovered, I looked up at him and I said, "Yeah, I know, but it wasn't up to you." And I kept walking into the defensive meeting room.
Good for you.
And so those are some type of the frictions that we had. And I can only be me. I can't fake and try to be somebody else. This is who I am. Like it, fine. You don't like it, that's fine too. But I think that his influence really knocked my position down in the draft. So I wasn't drafted until like the 6th round to Detroit. My position coach, I don't think, wanted me because he never gave me time. And I remember the last preseason game that I played was against the Cincinnati Bengals. And I made a couple great plays. And Charlie Weaver, who was a linebacker at the time, he was in man defense, and we were too deep zone with man underneath. His back out of the backfield got away from him, and I came over and made the play, and he looked up and he said, "Oh, my God, Dwight, thanks so much." Because he was beat. Well, the next day, they cut me.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So you went to Toronto in 78?
Well, no. Then, yes, I did go to Toronto. You're right. I did go to Toronto. Played a couple games up there, 4 games to be exact. hurt my ankle and came back down to the States, and I signed with Philly. And Vermeer was the coach. It looked like they were going somewhere, and they did go to the Super Bowl that year. But it's interesting. I had a great camp, and they didn't play me at free safety. They were playing me at strong safety. And Randy Logan, who was a Michigan guy too, he had just come from a Pro Bowl season. And I was making so many plays at strong safety, you didn't even know Randy Logan was in camp. So then my position coach says, well, Dwight, Dick wants to move you to free safety because you have a better chance of starting there. And I said to myself, well, I'm beating out your Pro Bowl strong safety. But free safety was my position that I always wanted to play, and I knew like the back of my hand. So they moved me to free safety and didn't let me play in any of the more preseason games. When camp was done, all the veterans were saying, Dwight, congratulations, because they knew that I was a hometown guy. I grew up right across the bridge in Pennsauken, New Jersey. And then the next day, I get a call from Carl Peterson saying, well, Dwight, I got some bad news for you. And I just said, bullshit. and that was that, so to speak. And they kept John Shira ahead of me.
Shira was a quarterback originally, and then he became a defensive back. Is that true?
That is correct. He was Dick Vermeer's quarterback at UCLA.
Right.
And he was walking around, moping around like he knew he was out the door. But when push came to shove, Dick kept him and released me. And my friends told me that he was interviewed once after they lost. Or maybe, that he was interviewed once he went up into the booth, once his coaching career was over. And they asked him what was the biggest mistake he made, and he actually said cutting Dwight Hicks.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
well,
it worked out well for me.
I'd hate to be the guy, the backup for Tim Tebow in Jacksonville, because Tebow's playing for his college coach as well, and Tebow's a huge name in Florida.
Yes, he is, and I think that will play a part in it too.
Yeah,
I really do, Frank.
So you were working in a health food store when you signed with the 49ers. Is that true?
That is true. That is true. I knew that I wanted to play ball, and I didn't know if I was destined to play or not because of the politics that were going on. But I didn't want to get into corporate America where I started making some money and just said, no, the heck with it. I'm making some money now. My goal as a child was to be a professional football player. And my goal also was to be an all-pro to help my team win a Super Bowl. And it didn't happen in Detroit. And when I went up to Canada, it was to be an all-star to help my team win a Grey Cup. That didn't happen. When I came down and signed with Philly, my personal goal was to be an all-pro to help my team win a Super Bowl. It didn't happen. I had to go to the worst team in the league at the time to realize my dream.
Wow.
And in 1979, I came to the 49ers midway through that season. And my goal was to be an all-pro and help my team win a Super Bowl. A year and a half later, I realized my dream. But yeah, I just always wanted to be a professional football player. And so I started doing the stock stuff at this health food store so I could stay in shape and concentrate on what my goal really was.
So from 79, what happened to the club between 79 and 81, which was the first Super Bowl season you won?
Okay. Well, again, when I got to the 49ers, I was playing special teams. I was getting to learn the defense. I came in midway through that season. And I thought for certain that they'd be putting me in, fairly soon once I knew the defense. And I was a quick study. And I thought that would be like after the second game, but it didn't happen. They were playing, Tony Dungy was playing free safety when I got there. And Tony was a quarterback in college, a very smart guy, cerebral guy. But I knew that, I'm like, he's playing free safety. Don't get hurt, Tony. In fact, he did get hurt. And I think the fourth game we were playing Denver, and I got into the game, got my first interception. I thought I was going to be elated about getting it. And I just clutched onto the ball. It was in the end zone. And I thought, wow, this is what I should have been doing all along. And the rest is sort of history.
Dwight, I want to ask you.
There was just a lot of guys, Frank, to answer your question. There was a lot of guys. I think Bill was implementing his offense, getting the people that he wanted there. And defensively, he wasn't really that keen on that part of the game because there were some guys from Stanford, and I'm not going to mention any games, that they would have had a hard time making my high school team.
Wow.
And I guess Bill was just giving these guys a paycheck because of the nepotism. Mm-hmm. And you know how that goes in, Hollywood and sports. And it's a shame because guys work really hard to secure a spot on a team or to be competitive. And in the end, sometimes athletic ability has nothing to do with that.
Yeah. So by your second season, you were pretty much the leader of Dwight Hicks and his Hot Licks, the defensive unit, which featured Ronnie Lott, Eric Wright, and Carlton Williamson. Is that correct?
That is correct. And that's we can attribute to our success and solidifying our defensive line, getting Fred Dean as well. But I knew those guys could play. I mean, I knew in camp they were all competitive. They came from big programs. Ronnie from SC, Carlton from Pitt, and Eric Wright from Missouri. And actually, we were all safeties. None of those guys had played corner. And they felt that Eric Wright was fast and strong, athletic enough to play the corner, and they felt that Ronnie could play the corner too. And if you can remember, there was no team had ever started 3 rookies in the secondary. That's just unheard of. And they won't do it today either. But they felt that I had enough football acumen and I knew the defenses well enough that I could get those guys lined up, make the changes we had to do if I had to give an audible to the defense, so to speak, and change the coverage. And they were correct. And, they had their growing pains early on, but, those guys turned out to be great players in their own right. And I was very happy and fortunate enough to play with guys like that.
And you were only 25, and you were the leader of the defensive unit.
Veteran.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said that I was quite lucky. I didn't know that I was going to be put in that position, but I studied and knew all the positions. And because I knew that, I was able to, help us all be successful. And yeah, I was young, but you put your mind into what you want to happen and you study hard. And, like I said, I knew all the positions. It made it a little easier for all of us. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Dwight, for our audience that don't really understand the nuances of football. The difference between strong safety and free safety. Free safety sounds more cerebral. You're making more decisions.
Yeah. That is true. Free safety is the last line of defense. So you want maybe not your hardest hitter, but you definitely want your surest tackler to be playing strong safety and be able to recognize different schemes that the other team might be playing. So if your offense comes out in a formation that we can't run this defense, you have to make the coverage adjustment. So that's what the free safety does mostly. Yeah.
So in 1981, you guys made it to the NFC Championship game, and there was a play at the end of the game that's widely remembered called the catch. Why don't you describe the catch and what you were doing at the time? Because you had an interesting 51 seconds after the catch. So
Interesting isn't the word.
And nobody remembers anything about that. They only remember the catch. The catch.
The
But
catch.
why don't you take us through that game?
Okay, so we had scored, and there were. I tell you, first of all, 9 times out of 10, Dwight Clark does not catch that ball. But it's a play that we had practiced all along. Bill was smart in that respect, and he knew he was the most interesting and innovative offensive coach I had ever been around. So here we've been practicing this play all year, and come game time, we're in this situation, and the play was actually supposed to go to Freddie Solomon, and Dwight Clark was supposed to be the next option. But here we go. I think Freddie got hit going across the field or fell down or something. So the option, was Dwight Clark. Well, Joe threw it up, and Bill had always told him, if it's not there, throw it away because we'll have another play. And that was, I believe, on the 3rd down. So Joe was the right quarterback at the right time. He threw it so only Dwight Clark could catch that ball. And if you look at that picture, Dwight Clark catches that ball in the back of his hands.
Yeah.
In the back of he catches, the back part of the football. And I thought Joe was trying to throw it away, but actually he said, no, I just thrown it up there where only he could get it, and he did. Dwight Clark went up and made that catch. And like I said, 9 times out of 10, he didn't catch that ball. But on this day, he caught it, and that's why they call it the catch. However, now we get to the 51.
Yeah, there was 51 seconds left in the game.
I don't even remember the 51 seconds.
Well,
like everybody else, yeah.
Absolutely.
Dwight does, and he'll tell us about it.
Yeah.
So here we go. They get the ball. I think it was, I don't know if it was a 3rd down or 1st down. Dallas was throwing the ball because they only had 51 seconds. They had the right play called at the right time. Danny White hits Drew Pearson in stride, splits our defense. It was a great play. It was, the timing was right, and Pearson caught this ball that Danny White hit him in stride. He was going for the touchdown. Eric Wright reaches out and catches Drew Pearson by the shoulder pads, the back of the shoulder pads, which today would be a penalty for a horse collar. Right? But it wasn't, and Eric Wright reaches out one hand, brings him down. Okay? The next play, Danny White drops back. We hit him. He fumbles the ball. We recover. Game over.
Wow.
Okay? So, if Eric Wright doesn't make this play and Drew Pearson goes for the touchdown,
nobody remembers the
catch disappeared. The catch, it just would have been a great catch, but it wouldn't have even been called a catch. But look at this great catch, but Dallas goes down and scores, wins the football game.
Well,
but because Eric Wright makes that tackle, the catch is solidified in NFL history.
Yes, and also when on the 5-yard line, Dwight Hicks made an interception early in the game that allowed you guys to score, denied them a touchdown and allowed you guys to score a touchdown, or else that may not have been a catch if not for your interception on the 5-yard line.
Well, that was in the Super Bowl, Frank.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, that was in the Super Bowl.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah, that was in the Super Bowl, and I'll paint this picture for you. It's the beginning of the game. from my perspective, I run out at the beginning of the game. I look down the field. Michigan's band is warming up.
Yep.
Because it's in the Silverdome in Michigan. Their pregame and halftime, pregame entertainment.
Let me guess. Let me interject one thing. I'm going to guess that Bo Schembechler did not ask you for tickets.
You know what? The kind of guy I am, I would have probably
left him.
Field and say, even though you messed up the position I was going to be drafted in, I'm all pro, water under the bridge, enjoy the game.
So
that's the kind of guy I am.
Reset the situation for us. Sorry for interrupting.
That's okay. So Michigan's band is warming up. I'm doing my warm up. And I'm just taking all this in because this is the Super Bowl and it's going to be over in a blink of an eye. And then we warm up, we go back in, come out. Diana Ross is getting ready to sing the national anthem. I'm like, whoa, this is like surreal.
Big time.
Yeah. And so both the benches, both teams were jacked, ready to play. And we win the toss. We choose to receive. Amos Lawrence fumbles the opening kickoff. And you could just hear and feel the air go out of our sideline. I mean, it just like air going out of a balloon, right? Or we had the opening kickoff from us to them to us again. And I think that propelled us to go on. And later on, we did have a goal line stand. But if I don't make that play early on, who knows how the game was going to pan out.
Dwight, let me ask, and Billy, you got to jump in because I'm sort of dominating this.
No worries at all. I'm trying the conversation.
But when you're playing a defensive position, I'm sort of friends with Kenny Anderson, who picked off.
And he's still pissed off, by the way, about that.
I know Ken from the Children's Charity Classic where we met.
That's right.
Kentucky.
That's right.
But can you read something in a quarterback's eyes, or does a quarterback give the ball away, or do you just react to the ball? How do you go about making an interception? And my second part of the question is, can you hear the crowd when you make an interception? I always wondered that, or else does the crowd go silent?
No. When you're on the field, you can hear them once everything is over, kind of. But as the play is panning out, you're so zoned in. I'll just say this before I get into that answer. I remember when they moved me to corner, we were in New York, and I had been roughing up, rerouting this one receiver. And I'd been doing it with a lot of success. So I got a little bit overconfident, and I tried to hit him with both arms, which I should never do, which I never do, and I missed. And he's streaking down the field, and I just turned and I just started running. That was the first time I heard the crowd. Ah! And I'm like, the ball is coming.
Wow.
But I was able to turn around because it was underthrown just a little bit to make a play on the ball. But other than that, you never really hear the fans until the play is kind of over. But on this play, I was supposed to be in man-to-man defense. And when I'm in man-to-man, my man tells me everything. You hear commentators talking about a defensive back. Well, why didn't he just turn around and look for the ball? Well, when you turn around and look for the ball, that's when the ball drops in there and the receiver catches it. The receiver tells you everything. So I always looked at the man, never took my eye off the man. But this time, in the Super Bowl, the biggest game of my life, I had been studying so much film, and subconsciously, when they came out in this formation, it had registered in my mind because I had seen that play over and over again while I was preparing. And what happens is the two inside guys go out, and the outside guy delays underneath and comes in, and it's a play that's for the red zone inside the 10-yard line. And it's a pick play. And as soon as my man broke to the outside, and I had the innermost guy of the three wide receivers closest to the formation, as soon as he went out, I dropped him. Now, I never dropped my man, but I dropped him and I looked outside. And people talking about things slowing down that when you get in the zone, and that's exactly what happened. But you have to understand, I wasn't thinking about this. I was just reacting to everything that I had seen on film, and now it's happening on the field. So I dropped my man. I looked outside. Isaac Curtis is cutting underneath. Eric Wright is covering him. Would have never been able to get through the other two DBs and the receivers coming out towards him. So I stop. I look back at Kenny Anderson. He's in his throwing motion. And I just stood there. And he threw it right to me. And Isaac Curtis, who was the receiver, had he kept going, he could have at least made a play to not have me catch it. But he had seen film too, and we were knocking that crap out of people. So he stopped.
Wow.
Wow.
And I intercept the ball and take it 22 yards. And we go down and score. Well, let me tell you this. 2.5 weeks after that, I'm in the building. We're back in San Francisco, or Redwood City. George Seifert is watching this film of the game. And I go in, I peek my head, and he says, "Hey, Dwight, how you doing?" I said, "Fine." He said, "Come in here." I go in, he says, "You remember this play?" And he just happened to be watching that play. I said, "Yeah." He says, "Did you guys talk about switching? You and Eric talk about switching or anything like that?" I said, "No." And he just said, "What?" He said, "Watch yourself." He says, "What defense is this?" He said, "Is it man or zone?" I said, "You know, George, it's man to man." He said, "Watch yourself." That was the first time I realized that I had dropped my man.
But you had done it instinctively because you...
No. Well, yes, instinctively. However, that was the only time in my career,
Wow.
Frank, that I had dropped my man. But I did it instinctively, but subconsciously.
Right.
It wasn't like I'm going to drop my man and do this. I just reacted to what my subconscious knew what was going to happen.
And you had trained your mind to believe that was the right gamble at the right time.
Yes. But at the time, I didn't think I was gambling. I was just
You were just following your instincts. But
exactly.
But you talked about seeing things in slow motion. That particular play, you seemed to see things in slow motion where everything slowed down. Did that happen to you often, or just at that particular moment?
That was the only time that happened to me in my career.
Unbelievable. And one more question I want to ask you. You said you read the receiver. You read everything off the receiver. Are you looking at his eyes when you're doing this? Is his eyes that's telling you?
Or his belly button?
Okay, well, initially, when I'm in man-to-man coverage, I'm not looking up here. I'm looking at, like, as you said, Frank, the belly button. Because you can fake your head, you can move your shoulders, but that middle part of your navel is not going to go anywhere. So initially, I'm reading that, okay? And then, as I'm going downfield, I'm reacting to what he's doing. Now, when the ball is coming, he's looking up, trying to find the ball, and his eyes will adjust. And as the ball gets closer, his eyes will get bigger. And so now I know the ball is coming. And then when he starts reaching, I reach with him. And if it's a well-thrown ball, you just rake the upfield arm. Because it's hard for somebody to catch the ball with one hand like this. Mm-hmm. Okay? It's easy for him to catch the ball when it's coming like that. Okay? And that's why I read his belly button first, and then as the ball is coming, you read his eyes and his arms.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
You wish you
don't look back, because say the ball is coming, right? The ball is coming, and as I'm looking back, the ball could be dropping in. That's why you never look back.
And there's a split second, because if you don't look back fast enough, you can be called for face guarding, correct?
That is correct. You have to turn. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's why you just play him, and when the ball is coming, you're not going to run into him if you're watching him.
Mm-hmm.
If you turn back and look, he can stop. You run into him. Now it's interference.
You wish you did this when you were bookmaking, didn't you?
Yeah. Number one, bookmaker. I like to know where I was betting. That's for sure. It's amazing the nuances that you watch thousands and thousands of NFL games.
Yeah.
And you just don't know what's really going on. I mean, when you watch a football game, I'm willing to bet that you're watching a totally different game than me. I mean, you're watching, things that I don't even see on the field.
And I could see before. I mean, just as the quarterback is releasing the ball, and you can't really see the receivers, I could see from the onset whether a defensive back is going to be beat or not.
Wow.
And in a running play, you could see the play developing just before the running back hits the hole. Just because when I look at the field, I see the whole field.
Yeah.
And people in the camera just spots light in and around where the football is.
I read an interview that you had, and you were talking about football being the ultimate team game, which I really agree with. I think if one person doesn't do their job, whether or not they're skill positions or not, the whole play falls apart. And it's
absolutely
very similar to the fire department. Like when we put out a fire, everybody has a job to do. If one guy doesn't do that job, the whole operation could turn into a mess and lives could be lost. I imagine it's the same thing with your job, Frank. I mean, if one guy screws up.
Well, if an actor screws up, he just gets another take. So
there's no take.
That's the difference. Exactly.
It's a lot less different. All he's doing is spending money. But there's plenty of that in Hollywood. So
we don't get to redo the X's and O's on our job.
It's not live take. It's not.
But it's funny that you should mention that, because I did theater as well, and theater is like a game. It's like there is no cut. Whatever comes out of your mouth comes out of your mouth, and whatever you do, you just got to keep going.
Yep.
Theater is live, right? It's going on right now. No mistake.
Absolutely, it's going on.
Yeah,
man.
But even in theater, and I'm not ready to get into your acting yet.
Okay.
But when I ask this question, in theater, if you blow a line, you can get it back. In football, in football, if you blow your coverage, maybe your teammate can come over and bail you out. In fire department, and Billy was a 20-year New York City fire department fire member. You got guys that can help you when you mess up. So
the thing is.
Well, go ahead, Billy. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You were the fireman.
Fire, when you go to a bad job, or a good job, as we call it, a good job. When you have a good job where fire's coming out 6 or 7 windows and people are trapped, it's your training that kicks in. I mean, it's chaos. It's organized chaos, which I'm sure is similar to what Dwight was talking about. I mean, he took a gamble, but it was his training and his preparation. And if you're not going to trust your training and your preparation, why do you do it?
Yeah.
You have to.
That is so true.
Yeah.
That is so true.
And it's the same thing with us. It's organized mayhem is what it is. But the first thing we would do after a job is come back to the firehouse and critique what you could have done better.
Wow.
Because there's always something.
See, I didn't know that.
Well, there's always something you could have done better. I say, what did you do?
Right,
I went up the rear fire escape. I made a search. I did this. What could you have done? Because that drills into you, that constant repetition. There's always something more you could do, And I'm sure it's got to be. And I really admire the fact that football is such a team sport.
But I admire you guys in the fire department because with football, it's not life or death. Okay,
No.
you guys, when everybody's running out of the building because it's a fire, you guys are going in. And number one, that takes a lot of trust. That takes a lot of fortitude, and I mean.
Well, thank you very much.
I'm serious, and it's life or death. That takes a lot of courage.
But you're dead right.
Because you don't know these people in this building, right?
But you're
you
dead right.
don't know them.
Depending
But you're
on the
putting
guys
your
you're with.
life on the line for them.
Yes, but I mean that's your
For
job. But you're depending on the guys you're with. You know, because you know the brothers, they're coming for you one way or
That's
another.
right.
And you go and you go down a hallway, just like in combat. I was in Vietnam, and I wasn't a combat soldier or nothing. But in combat, it's very much like the fire department. You're not doing it. I mean, of course, you're doing it to help people. I mean, that's your vocation, that's your job.
Right.
But you're going as far as the guy next to you is willing to go. You know, you're going to protect your brother. It's always about protect your brother. In combat, nobody's waving a U.S. flag. You're not killing the enemy. You're killing the enemy for the guy next to you. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. And if I could jump in on that, it's like you do your job. If everybody does their job, for the most part, we're going to be successful on this one play. And you try to do every play like that.
Yeah.
That everybody's depending on everybody else. And as you said, people don't understand that the linemen that don't get to touch the ball, the offense and defensive line, they, unless, if somebody fumbles and the defense can pick it up, defensive lineman can pick it up, or offensive lineman can fall on it too. But for the most part, they don't get to touch the ball. But if the offensive line doesn't do their job, quarterback's not going to be able to do anything.
Yeah.
The running backs aren't going to be able to do anything.
And they can't play. They can't take a play off.
That's right. Well, defensively, the receivers could take a play off because they could just run down the field and try to occupy the person who's covering them.
Yeah.
Now, you can call that taking a play off or something. But still, if you run your opponent down the field, you're taking one less person to help stop the play defensively.
Right.
So really, are you taking a play off or not? But yeah, in the line, you can't take a play.
You can't get.
You can't.
Yeah. So you won the Super Bowl 16. What was the score?
38-6. No. It was 26-21, I believe.
Yeah, so that's a pretty close game. That was tight right down to the end. Who had the ball at the final possession?
I don't know, but here I think we were up 20 to
20-0, I believe.
Yeah, okay. And this is why I don't like prevent defenses. But it was our coach's first time. So, they get a little hesitant. But, as a player, you don't want to play prevent. You've been successful. You stop them, right? They haven't scored. So why would you change your strategy? And Bill just told Chuck Studley, who was defensive coordinator, play looser defense. They might score, but they're going to have to consistently get first downs to go down the field to score. Just don't let people get behind you. But shit, that's what you do anyway. You don't let people get behind you, right? That's automatic as a defensive back. And you play smart, but just give them yardage. I never liked the prevent defense unless you were up by a whole lot. I mean, and still, I don't know. I think a prevent defense could prevent you from winning the game.
Yeah. So how did you feel after the game was over when you captured your first Super Bowl?
words can't explain it. You know, the feeling was just awesome. As a child, you know, I used to mimic guys running Bart Starr. I started watching in the 60s. Bart Starr, Dwayne Thomas, Leroy Kelly, Roman Gabriel, the Mad Bomber,
Monica.
Monica. I mean, Gail Sayers, Jim. I mean, you watch these guys, and I remember no one in my family had played sports before, and I was the first one. And so I'm watching a football game. I think I was 8, and it was a Sunday, and all the kids are playing outside. My mother thought we had left the TV on upstairs, so she went upstairs to turn it off, and she found me there watching this football game. She says, "Dwight, what are you doing up here?" I said, "How come you're not outside? It's a nice day." Da, da, da. And she said, "I never took my eyes off the TV." And I just said, "I'm watching this game, Mom." And she said, "You like that, running into people, running into each other and falling all over each other?" I said, "Yeah, Mom. One of these days I'm going to be on TV just like that, playing football."
Wow.
And then it happened.
And you were right.
And then it happened.
You know, you talk about Gail Sayers.
It's crazy.
Gail Sayers and Jimmy Brown. I'd like to know, just pure curiosity, one-on-one, who do you think would be the toughest guy to bring down in your generation that you played against or whatever? Who would you fear in the open field?
Well, there's two different styles of running backs. One is, the bigger guy, and you're one-on-one, and you have to bring him down. Say like
Earl Campbell.
An Earl Campbell. There you go. See, Earl Campbell. They weren't. They were in our division, but after he left Houston, we weren't going to probably see him until maybe once in a blue moon. But a guy that no one really heard of, or some people heard of, but don't know him that well. William Andrews, who played for Atlanta, tough running back. Joel Riggs was another one, tough running back. They're not going to try to juke you. They're just going to try to run you over. Somebody like a Dickerson, a Marcus Allen, even a Wendell Tyler. I mean, somebody that has moves in the open field as a safety. You have to say that I'm going to bring them down because that's your job. And when you talk about, people fake it, what do you look at, Dwight, in a receiver? As a running back, too, coming at you, you have to look at their midsection because they can shake and bake, but that midsection isn't going to go anywhere. And I learned to, when I had a shot at somebody and they weren't looking, I tried to go knock them out. But if they saw me coming and it was a guy that was a guy that had moves in the open field, I had to really hone in on their belly button and just bring them down. I'm not going to try for the big hit because you try to make a big hit, right? You're out of control. They fake you. You go for it. Boom, it's 6. So a safety was the last line of defense. So when I had a guy that could, really juke you, I'd really break down and look at their midsection just to make the tackle.
And you would try to wrap him up with both arms, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
You wouldn't try to knock him out of bounds like they're doing today. I see
push him out, or
I see so many missed tackles when a guy's trying to knock a guy out and they don't wrap him up.
Yeah, or they dive in with the shoulder trying to knock, and the guy either. If they go too low, they jump over them. These athletes they have now. But that's why you keep your head up and you wrap. That's what a short tackle is.
So you won Super Bowl 16. At 17, was there a hangover?
No, it was a shortened season because we struck.
Right.
Some of the guys on the team wanted to strike. Some of the guys didn't. We weren't together as a unit.
Right.
As a team. And people talk about, oh, well, you see all these all-stars. Hey, here's a perfect example. You look at the NBA players who are playing in the Olympics. They have all these all-stars, right? But they're not playing together.
Right.
I don't give a damn what kind of talent you have. If you're not playing together, it's going to be tough to win. So, we were split. Guys wanted to play, some guys didn't. And mostly the guys with the biggest contracts wanted to play because they wanted to get their money. And the guys that didn't have, we didn't have the contracts that they have now, but still, there are guys making a lot more than some of the guys that weren't. And we were doing it because we wanted better health benefits, a lot of different reasons why. And that's why we struck. But when you're not together, it's hard to be successful.
Yeah.
It's like it's like you have to be on the one mindset. And if it's not that, it's going to be hard to be successful.
So you sort of got back on the same page, the team, the following year, but you lost to the Redskins, I think.
Yes.
And
which is now the Washington
football team.
Yeah.
And the credit for, or partial credit for your winning the next year is a speech you gave to the team at the end of the Super Bowl, the NFC Championship game, because you were so pissed off. You said, just remember what it was like. Well, why don't you tell us about that speech?
Well, I came in, I was on the field at the time, and so when the last tick of the clock, boom, I just headed for the locker room. I think I was one of the first guys, if not the first guy in there. And I was defensive captain. And I just watched everybody come in. And there were not mixed emotions, but there were different emotions. People were angry. Some people were crying. Some people were disgusted because the two calls that were called, interference call, one on, I think, Ronnie and one on Eric Wright. And the one on Eric Wright, they changed the rule the next year that the ball had to be catchable for it to be interference. And something just struck me, and I felt I had to say something. And I just told the team, hey, I know that, we're disappointed, to say the least. But the fact of the matter is we didn't play well enough to win. And I said, we could blame it on the refs and those two interference calls. I said, but we have to play so much better than that a play here or two isn't going to be the difference of a game. Even if you don't like the defense that the coordinator calls, or you don't like an offensive play that the coach calls, we're going to have to play it anyway and play it to the best of our ability. And I said, so next year, that's what we're going to have to do. I said, we can't have any excuses. So remember how you're feeling right now. So when next year comes, we're going to be ready for every game. And we're going to come back and we're going to win this thing. We're going to win the Super Bowl next year. And shit, we were, 18-1.
18-1.
Not bad.
And you breezed in the Super Bowl 38-16 over the Miami Dolphins, which were coached by Don Shula.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was a very bright coach. Yeah, and I can remember preparing for that game. After I used to take film home with me and watch, and you get to know your opponent. And after like 3 days of going in, practicing, taking film home, studying it, I came back the fourth day of practice, getting ready for them, and I told Ray Rose, who was our defensive coach, I said, hey, man, I said, we should line up and play nickel all game. And I said, they won't piss a drop, right? And so he says, yeah, I know. And I said, and he said, yeah, And so then I went to Seaford, who was our coordinator. And I said, George, man, we should play nickel all game. They won't piss a drop because they're a passing team. Our best guys for the pass and the pass rush is our nickel defense. I said, they won't piss a drop, George, you know? And he looks at me and he says, well, what about Hacksaw? Because Hacksaw plays in the base defense. We were platooning 3 and 4 man line with Hacksaw in the game in our base defense.
Who is Hacksaw?
Jack Hacksaw Reynolds.
Okay.
Jack Reynolds.
Okay. Who was a great player. He was a student of the game too. I mean, he knew, man, a guard took one step and he knew where the play was going. But in this situation, Miami being a team that threw the ball and has success throwing the ball, Marino, Duper, and Clayton, they had records, NFL records from regular season games that year.
And that was Marino's rookie season, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he got rid of the ball quick. He had a fast release. And receivers that could run and catch. I mean, Duper and Clayton, they were fast. They could run routes. And they were good. But I just felt, you know, I put our nickel defense up against anyone. So I tell George this, and he says, what about Hacksaw? And I looked at him with this look in my eye like, you got to be fucking kidding me, right? I said, he'll get a ring. So the game starts with Hacksaw in the game. And Shula saw what we were doing because, you know, he watches film too. So he waited till we got good and comfortable with Hacksaw in the game. And he started going no huddle and throwing the football. Now we can't get Hacksaw off the field. Okay? They score 16 points. Second half, we play all nickel. They scored 0 points. So if we would have had the game plan of playing our nickel the whole game, yeah, it would have been a hard press for Miami even scoring.
Wow.
So
It could have been a lot worse than that.
So basically what you're saying is, again, back to the unit. It's the team unit, not necessarily the best player on the field. It's how to play as a unit. That's the key.
Whether it's your base defense or nickel defense, special teams, all of that. All 11 guys being of the same mind and doing their job individually and collectively for us to be successful.
You know, I always use the analogy, what's is stronger, these 5 fingers or this fist? Because you can break these 5 fingers, but you can't break that fist.
That's right. It's one. That's right. They're all working together. Absolutely.
You know, one of the things I admire about you, Dwight, when I was doing research to do this interview, was that you're a proponent of health care and pensions for, you know, retired players and everything else. And I came across an interview which was a pretty startling comment when you said the chances of getting injured in the NFL are 100%.
That's correct.
100%.
100%. It's just a matter to what degree.
Yeah.
And I just feel as a NFL player, if you play one down, you should be vested. And you should have health care for the rest of your life. Because like I said, the risk of injury is 100%. And when you're young, you don't feel those pains. But as you get older, trust me, your body is going to start to break down. If it doesn't start to break down as you're playing during your career. Yeah. So, you know, I just feel that the NFL makes so much money, it wouldn't be any skin off their back to insure the guys for the rest of their life.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's a shame that it's not happening.
Yeah, I think it's the case in all the leagues. You know, Major League Baseball now, you have to play one game to be vested.
Yes.
It used to be you had to play 4 years to be vested. Now it's one game. Our good friend Artis Gilmore should be insured forever because he played for 18 years, but the NBA Players Association doesn't take care of him.
Is that right?
Yeah.
See, I thought they had. I think their pension plan is their pensions are a little bit better, or probably a lot better than ours. However, healthcare, man, is, as we get older, we need that.
Yes,
and I think in every sport,
and
you should. It's a no-brainer to me.
And when artists retired, maybe year 2000, they would take care of the players, but all the retired players don't have coverage, and that's a shame because it's there are only maybe let's take the ABA. There are 100 players alive today that played in the ABA, and
are you kidding me, Frank? That's it.
That's it. And of those 100 players, the players that played exclusively in the ABA don't have any pensions.
That's criminal to me.
And the NBA doesn't count the ABA stats as the AFL stats are included in the NFL players. And Major League Baseball is going to include the Negro leagues in their stats as well. So the ABA and the NBA will just be the only leagues that are left out.
Real. So the Major League Baseball does include the Negro leagues.
They're gonna include the Negro leagues. So that's going to be a great thing.
This happened within the last year.
This happened within the last 4 months.
Wow.
Because they respect the contributions that the black players made to the game. The black players were involved and making major sacrifices for the game, and now they're going to be rewarded. I mean, it's a shame that they're not around to see it, and it's a shame. It's even a bigger shame that the players today don't even know those players' names. But I mean, again, I'm going to get off on a tangent. But everybody talks about Jackie Robinson, who was a great trailblazer. But 2 months after Jackie Robinson made his debut, Larry Doby made his debut for the Chicago White Sox, and nobody even says anything about Larry Doby's name.
Yeah.
Nobody even knows Larry Doby's name. Yeah. So where do you have your Super Bowl rings, Dwight?
They're in the safe deposit box.
As they should be.
As they should be. I only wear them if I go out to events, things like that. People want to see them, but for the most part, they're tucked away.
So when you retired, what made you want to get into acting rather than being a defensive coach?
Actually, I thought that was going to be my how I was going to transition from football. Actually, but I would tell I would tell George Seifert. I mean, I knew the game so well. George would be on the board, on the chalkboard, and he was like a mad scientist. He had some great stuff with him, but sometimes he put some things up there, and we started getting our game plan together. And he'd write some stuff up there, and I'd look at that board, and I'm like, George, that's not going to work. And I'd sort of say it under my breath, but he would hear me. And he'd turn around and he said, how come? I said, because those X's and O's, they move out on the field. But I think he liked and loved that about me, that I was a student of the game. But I sat out a game in 1983 because of a contract dispute, because Walsh had promised me a new contract in 1982 if I made the Pro Bowl in 1983. He said, if you make the Pro Bowl. Now, I made the Pro Bowl 2 years in a row. And because I was cut twice, they like to bring your contract up to speed by how you came in the league. Well, I was an anomaly. I was cut twice. My first year, my contract would have been the equivalent of $32,000. Okay? But because I came halfway in the season, I made $16,000 my first year as a pro. I had a job at the San Mateo Juvenile Correctional Facility in the off season for 2 years.
Wow.
And then they signed Nehemiah. And when they signed Ronaldo Nehemiah in 1983, but before the 1983 season, I saw it in the paper. I was having breakfast. And they gave him, now this was they signed him right after we won the Super Bowl. And so...
and for our audience, Skeets Nehemiah was an Olympic hurdler.
World-renowned
Olympic hurdler who was going to try and make the transition into football.
Right. And the last time Ronaldo Nehemiah had played football was in high school. So from high school to college is a jump. From college to pro is even a bigger jump. And the last time he had played football was in high school. So anyway, they give him all this money. Matter of fact, they gave him more than what I was making. And it was my first year all pro, right? So I went up to the office and I had called first, went up there and told John McVay, I said, somebody got to help me understand this because, I was eating breakfast this morning. I couldn't finish when I saw the paper. And so what seems to be the problem? I said, well, read the paper. That's the problem. How can you justify giving this guy all this money and you don't even know if he can play? You gave him more than me, and I'm an all-pro. I said, where was he when we were 2-14? Where was he when we were 6-10? Where was he when we were winning the Super Bowl? You don't know, but you knew where I was, but yet you're giving him more money than me. So Wall said, yeah, we've been meaning to bring your contract up to speed, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, well, give me some numbers, throw out some numbers. And he said, we're going to give you a 33% increase. Now, where he got that, I don't know. Increase in salary, and 33% of what I was making was next to nothing, too. So I just looked at him and I said, it's not enough. And he started stumbling for his words. Oh, well, Dwight, 33% increase in the professional world, people would, die for that. I said, yeah, but this isn't any other profession. This is professional football, Bill. And then he stumbled to find some more words. Then he says, how about if I give you a 33% increase, and if you make the Pro Bowl next year, I'll tear up the contract and redo it. And I thought about it, and I said, yeah, I like that because that way I would have to earn it. Well, I made the Pro Bowl for the second year in a row, but we didn't have that good of a season because, like I said, some guys wanted to strike, some guys didn't. We didn't make the playoffs, but I made the Pro Bowl. And Bill, I'm looking for another new contract. And they're like, no, you're under contract.
Wow.
Yeah. So then, and the reason I didn't have an agent at the time, because when I went to sign with the Niners, I'd been cut twice. My agent didn't even call me back.
Wow.
And so when I went in there to negotiate that first contract, well, it really wasn't a negotiation. I wanted to play. I told John McVay, John, I'm going to sign this contract because, I was called him Mr. McVay then. I said, Mr. McVay, I'm going to sign this contract because you're giving me an opportunity to play. I said, but as soon as I show you I'm a quality player, I'm going to expect quality pay. And he probably looked at me and said, yeah, whatever, kid, just sign the damn contract. And I did, which was for $32,000, which was actually $8,000. So then when time came when I became an all-pro, when I was in his office, he says, well, Dwight, he says, I said, remember, John, that conversation we had about me showing you that I was a quality player? I said, that time is now, and I expect to be paid like one. And he says, well, Dwight, you think you're going to make the kind of money Ronnie Lott's making? He's a first-round draft choice. I said, Mr. McVay, you're right. I said, I didn't have control whether I was going to be number one draft choice. But what I did have control over is whether I was going to be an all-pro or not. And I said, I'm an all-pro. I expect to be paid like one. And as far as your number one draft choice, I said, I'm lining his ass up every Sunday. Those were my exact words. Those were my exact words. And that's when Bill came and said, well, how things going? And he was probably listening in on a conference line in the other room. Because he came in, I swear, not even 5 seconds after I said that. And his office was way down the hall. So I said, well, the guy would make a good stand-up, but other than that, and he says, well, come see me afterwards. I said, okay. So I turned to Mr. McVeigh. I said, Mr. McVeigh, I said, are you done here? And he said, yeah. I said, well, thank you for your time. And I went to Bill's office. And first thing Bill said was, well, Dwight, you shouldn't insult people like that. I said, yeah, Bill, you're right. I said, but when somebody insults my intelligence, guy's young, it's good. I knew my worth. I said, but, when people insult my intelligence, it sort of pisses me off. And that's when he gave me the line about 33% increase in salary, and then he reneged on it. So wow. I sat out the game in '83, and from that point on, and Ray Rhodes had told me, he says, Dwight, don't do this because they will blackball you out of the league and all the things you wanted to do afterwards, because he knew I'd be a good coach. He said, all of that disappears. And I thought about it, and I said, Ray, you're probably right. I'm sure you're right. I said, but, this man gave me his word. I gave him mine. He gave me something to strive for. He said, if you make the Pro Bowl the next year, I will tear up your contract and redo it. Well, I made the Pro Bowl. And he went back on his word. I said, so the only thing I could do as a man is to either sit down, shut my mouth and take it, or stand up for myself. And I stood up for myself. And I wasn't able to become a coach. But the thing I could do right now, today, is look myself in the mirror. And I may not have had the money that I wanted. I said, but one thing I do have
self-respect.
Is absolutely. I could not have looked in myself in the mirror, Frank, and said,
yes.
Why, I would have been questioning, why didn't you stand up for yourself?
Yes, absolutely.
And that's something that my mother taught me. She said, Dwight, you can be and do whatever you want in life. Put your best foot forward. Treat people as you would want them to treat you. And always stick up for yourself.
And in retrospect, if you had followed the career that had been leading you toward, which would be football, you wouldn't have been an actor.
No.
In retrospect, you're probably much happier as an actor than you would have been as an assistant football coach and maybe a head football coach. You work for, however many years to be a head football coach, and in 2 years, you're probably out of it. Being an African American, you're probably not going to get a second chance.
That's right.
You can be anything you want as an actor and do it a lot longer. So yes. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your acting career? I mean, you've got 55 credits. What are some of the movies you've been in, and what are some of the movies and TV shows that you've enjoyed the most?
The Rock, Armageddon, Jack was the first one with Robin Williams and Diana Lane, Fran Drescher. That's the first movie. I've been in countless TV shows, ER, X-Files, How I Met Your Mother, Cold Case. I can't name. I've been in quite a few.
And you have the ability. You have the ability to memorize dialogue, which is
very
important for an actor.
I think, Frank, that has helped me maybe with some brain issues that I don't know I have. But I think if you play professional football, like I said about the risk of injury, there's brain damage, man, and it's just a matter to what degree. And you could maybe help heal some of those brain cells by maybe nutrition or supplements, things of that nature. Alpha brainwave training, which I've done. But I feel that because I had to exercise my brain and learning lines, and it's like football, it's routine. You routinely say them over and over and over again until they're second nature. And because, as an actor, these are just lines on a page.
Yeah.
But you have to say them like they're coming from a place of experience, giving yourself some history. And no one has to know what that history is. But when you say them, when somebody says something to you, you have to say it from a point of view of an experience, of a history.
Yeah, it's not
because you don't, you're just spitting out lines.
Yeah, it's not just spitting out lines. It's not about the lines. It's about what's between. It's what's between the lines. It's about
absolutely.
It's about the subtext.
Absolutely, and mostly how you feel.
Yep.
And that's the subtext that's in between the lines.
Hey, when you said you worked with The Rock, what was that like? Because he was not
The Rock. The Rock, the movie.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage.
Oh, that's even. What'd you learn from them?
A lot.
Really?
A lot. And because Frank, I never went to my trail. I stayed on set because this was the second film I was doing, and I did it in Jack too. I asked Francis if I could, stay and watch and look at the monitor. Yeah,
Francis being.
Yeah. So he says, "Well, Dwight, they say if you look in the monitor that's bad luck." And I looked at him. I said, "I don't believe in bad or good luck. It is what it is." So I watched, and then when I got on The Rock, I was watching a monitor, and I was watching the scene when William Forsythe was trying to get Sean Connery to help him break into Alcatraz. And I was watching the monitor, and it was the framing of it by just those guys being in this observation room, and I'm looking on the monitor, and what they were doing was very engaging. And I knew that they were just words on the page, but I recognized the skill set because as a pro athlete, I understand the skill of the position I played and the skill that people have to play football. And I recognized that. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I recognized it. I'm like, damn, because they just drew me in.
Right.
And I was like, I want to be able to do that. And that's when my interest in, as an actor, telling stories, that's when it really, the seed really started to, when I planted the seed. Because I was just, kind of winging it, but I had the confidence to do it. But it's more than confidence. It's a skill set. And watching those two actors do that really drew me in. I'm like, yeah, I want to be able to do that.
Yeah, there's a famous line from My Favorite Year where the lead character was a movie star. He was doing a TV show, and he said, "I'm not an actor. I'm a movie star." How is the difference between being in a play and being in a situation comedy differ from being a movie star?
Well, it depends on how you define movie star, and it depends on how you define a TV star. From what I understand.
Let me.
Okay, go ahead.
How is the difference between shooting 2 pages of dialogue a day and shooting 40 pages of dialogue?
It's the attitude in which you do your preparation.
Training.
I think TV, Frank, for the most part, you don't get as much time. They want to move. They want to move quickly, and because TV, I find, is about advertising.
Right.
Right? Because it's all about money. It's all about money. But I, as a TV star, you have to be quick. You have to come out with the lines and be more, I think, efficient. I think in film, you get more time, even though it is money, but there's not the commercial aspect like it is in TV. You get more time to develop a character, per se. And when you go to theater, you get a lot of time. You got more time to rehearse and delve into your character. I can remember when I was doing some plays, I tried to peel the onion, get more and more, discover more and more as for the character. And I would be doing that, and after the run is over, I'm thinking of more stuff I could have done. Right. So you're always learning to discover, and if you're not, I think you're doing the profession a disservice.
Yeah.
A lot of people can ad-lib. That's fine. I think in a screenplay, I think you might be able to ad-lib a little bit more, not a lot, but a little bit more than you would do in a play. In a play, like take, for instance, Shakespeare. Shakespeare, there is not a throwaway line. There's not a throwaway line. August Wilson, there's not a throwaway line.
Fences, play.
Yeah, there is not a throwaway line. So you have to remember those lines exactly as is.
Yeah, you got to say them verbatim.
Yeah.
Now you
because every word means something. And see, I was fortunate enough that I took my football profession very seriously. I don't know how much guys watch film now, because you're looking at guys. I'm watching a game and I'm like, fuck, he had to know that. What is he doing? Because even though they're making more money, I can't per se say exactly that is some of the problems that some of these guys, these youngsters make. They're bigger, faster, stronger, but I don't know if they're more technically sound than we were. Right. Right. And it shows up on the field. But I was fortunate enough to have that mindset as a professional football player, to pay attention to the details.
And that carries over into your acting.
Absolutely. So, because I wanted to learn more.
Yeah.
I was green. I didn't know what like I said, you could only wing it for so long, right? But after I got understood, I should say, after I understood, and I was very early on, what acting was all about, I'm like, I need to do more. I need to, I would watch old television shows in black and white. I went way back. One of my famous movies even was Night of the Iguana. Do you remember that, Frank?
Sure.
Okay, you guys remember that? Okay.
Richard Burton, David Gardner.
Listen, and Billy knows everything.
Billy, right? Okay. You love that too?
Oh, I remember the movie with Deborah Kerr. Sure.
Yeah. And one of the most fascinating parts of that movie is I forget the actor, but remember the guy that was trying to write a poem, and he just couldn't finish it, and then finally They were out on the balcony, up in their little bungalow above the ocean. And he says, I got it. And it was, he started reciting it. And after he recited it, he died. That was very profound.
Poignant.
Very much.
You know, you mentioned August Wilson before, and of course,
the Olive Branch, I think it was the poem was called. Yeah. So go ahead.
You mentioned August Wilson, his wonderful play across fences. You did a play that had to be very dear to your heart when you did X's and O's.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is a subject that was dear to your heart. I mean, you mentioned both of you. Incidentally, mentioned Earl Campbell. We were talking about injuries and everything, and you think about the tragedy that is Earl Campbell now. I mean, I've seen pictures of him trying to get out of bed, and he can hardly walk. And
I saw that, the 30 for 30 you're talking about, Billy.
Yeah. I mean, and they asked a lot of young college kids, if this is what you're going to look like at 50, would you still play pro football? And 95% of them said, yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
So, again, keeping with the theme that you said, show business is money. It's about money. The NFL is certainly about money. It's a business. It's an entertainment industry. And if you don't make noise about brain injuries and about the conditions of what's going to happen, who's going to grease the pen? I mean,
That's right.
You got to make noise.
You're absolutely right, Billy.
So tell me
I
about
agree
X's
100%.
Tell me about X's and O's. You played multiple characters.
Well, how that play came about, the writer, and I'm blanking on her name right now, KJ Sanchez. And Jenny Mercine, which is her father, Mercine. Jenny, her father played for the Green Bay Packers.
Chuck Mercine?
Back in their first championship.
Was it Chuck Mercine?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. So KJ loved football, and one of her favorite players was Junior Seau.
Wow.
And she had done something with the veterans and PTSD. And so when Junior took his life, she thought, oh my God, there's something there. And she wanted to talk about it. So she and Jenny got together and she started writing, and Jenny was helping her with some things and football jargon, that kind of thing. I'm sure she talked to Chuck and came out with a play, X's and O's. And you guys saw the movie Concussion, right?
Concussion, Will Smith, yeah. This is
X's and O's.
This is a precursor to that, though. This was done before Concussion. This is a precursor to Concussion, right?
Yeah. And you X's and O's was delved into it so much more in depth, because in Concussion, Dr. Amalu, Will Smith's character, he was wondering what happened to Mike Webster. What would make this guy
tragic
pull his teeth out and then super glue them back in his head? He didn't understand why somebody would do this. Okay. So he followed Chuck Webster. Well, KJ took the narrative of, why would someone do that? Why would Andre Waters drink antifreeze? And why would I'm trying to think Boyd? I forget how he killed himself, but took several guys, several players that had CTE, basically CTE, and she broke it down from a medical point of view, where someone came out and talked about and showed cross sections of the brain, and she did it in a way that it was like an ESPN set. Then with the medical person, and then there were three people at the bar talking about players and what's happening to him, and is the game going to continue? Then she took, there was a perspective of 3 different players. A player that was mostly special teams, a player like, what was the center for the Raiders for all those years? I'm blanking.
Jim Otto.
Jim Otto. Thank you. And then my character was a reference of a few players put into one. But it was all about what happens to these players. And it was very, so in depth, and so profound to get a really good look at what was happening to these guys. And we were talking about earlier, the pensions and the older players who win the game, the onset of the NFL. Well, before the NFL, there was professional football. Before the NFL. Mm-hmm. But when the NFL started, people don't know this, black players disappeared, weren't able to play. The national anthem, which Colin Kaepernick was blackballed for, taking a knee. First he sat down, and then he was told from a veteran that kneeling is a sign of surrender. So he started kneeling after the first time he sat. And people don't understand that the Army, the military, they pay the NFL for that time.
Yes, they
do. They do, yeah.
They pay for that time.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. So the thing about it is, here, somebody asked me, what do you think? I'm like, concussions was good, but X's and O's, that play should be going around every NFL city, inviting high school kids to see what goes on, the history of the game, like you were talking about, Frank. People don't know.
Yeah.
People should know. Kids should know. And if
parents should know as well before they let their kids play.
Absolutely. Because a parent asked me, "Oh, Dwight, football and all this stuff I'm hearing now, should I let my kid play?" And I said, "You know what?" I said, "I would hold," because I didn't start playing until I was 12. Kids start playing football when they're 6 and 7, right? And I'm like, "You should wait." I said, because if your kid really wants to play and you don't allow them to play, and they see some of the successes of their friends, they're really going to be pissed at you and have a lot of animosity. See, why didn't you let me play?
Yeah.
And the thing about that is, I tell them, let them play. They will find early on if football is for them or not.
Right.
Right. They're going to find out real quick, because people have told me, "Man, I tried out for football and somebody hit me and I took off my helmet and I wanted to fight." And the coach said, wait a minute, what are you doing? He said, "Did you see that guy hit me like that?" He said, "Yeah, that's legal." He said, "Oh, then I don't want to play this." Because it's a physical game. We're knowing more and more, learning more and more about what football does to the brain. And that's part of X's and O's. It presents that question.
Well,
what is football going to look like in the future?
Well,
and you see they're changing some of the rules, trying to make football safer, but it's a violent game.
It is a violent
game. It's a violent game. And if you take some of the things that make football so entertaining, it's like, what is it going to look like? I mean, these guys don't even hold up receivers anymore. Yeah. They get a free release. You can't hit the quarterback. Your hand can't even come down on their shoulder, or it's a penalty. Joe Montana today has a hard time standing for a long time or sitting for a long time because he used to get hammered. But you ask Joe, if he had to do it all over again, would he do it? I bet you 100% he'd say, yeah.
Well, it's a great thing to have a man who had 32 career interceptions. He was astounding as an athlete. He's been a fine actor, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the movies, on TV. You got anything coming up, Dwight?
No, I am just getting ready to audition for, what is that? I don't even look at what I'm auditioning for. I just look at the lines.
Yeah.
For the kid that's young something. He's a young doc.
Oh, I don't know. It's Young Sheldon, but Young Sheldon.
Young Sheldon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. I'm getting ready to. I'm preparing for an audition for that.
Okay. Well, we'll wish you luck, Dwight. You've been a terrific guest. We're so excited to have you, and we wish you and Dana nothing but the best.
Well, thank you, Frank. I appreciate you inviting me on the show. You and Billy. Hey.
Oh, what a guy! What a guy!
And again, thank you.
If they won't do it, I will do it.
What a
Pick
guy!
up this book. I'm telling you, I played in the NFL and didn't know some of the things that I learned in that book. Very entertaining.
Well, thank you.
And good job, you guys.
Thanks so much.
Great job.
Thanks
Great
so much,
job.
Dwight.
Thank you.
You've been
Thank you.
a terrific
You
guest.
guys be well.
Great
Thank
job
you.
yourself.
Thank you.
you, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Be well.
What a guy!
So, good guy, huh?
Oh man, I'm an affable guy. You know, and it's funny that supposedly Bo Schlemberger said he was tough to work with. Meanwhile, KJ Sanchez, the guy who wrote the play X's and O's that Dwight was talking about, said he was very even-tempered, almost Buddha-like.
Yeah.
And you can actually see that. What an affable guy. What a pleasant guy to talk to.
A terrific guy. A terrific guy, and a good friend for many years. And, you know, again, I didn't realize how good a player he was. But he was a terrific player. Let's close this by, we had a bunch of things we were going to do, but I think we ran long. We ran a little bit long.
And wonderful.
I just want to say, I want to give a shout out to Cheryl Pronchnick, the person who won our drawing for the Murphy Brown autograph picture.
All right.
That's on our way to you right now. Cheryl, thank you for watching. And our guest next week will be another fascinating guest. It will be Upton Bell, who was a former general manager of the New England Patriots, and his father is the legendary Bert Bell of the NFL commissioner. So with that, we'll say
good night, Frank.
Good night, Billy.
Good night, Derek.
Good night, Derek, wherever you are.
Hey, Derek, you talked an awful lot. You're the reason we ran long, you know.
Thanks, Billy.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
See you next
Thanks
week.
very much for tuning in.
Next week's guest, former New England Patriots general manager, Upton Bell.